What is up, everybody? It's Kyle with another episode of Unlocking Your Inner Strength. Great week so far. Had my CEO mastermind group with Vincent and the gang from all over the country. That was Monday and Tuesday. Yesterday, good stuff over at the senior home. Good marketing meeting with Evan. And then we did some family time down at the river. Today, get a fresh cut. Working on phase 2 of the cut. Beard is trimmed up nice. Get it ready for the holiday weekend parties for the 4th of July. And then we will be going in to coach a few clients later. So one of the books I'm reading right now, I just finished Conversations with God. And this one it's been on my shelf for a long time, A Guide to the Good Life. So it's about Stoicism, the philosophy of being a Stoic, which a lot of people tell me I am. So I figure I should read up on it because I've never studied Stoicism or whatnot. Anyhow, diving more into philosophy and the more I'm getting back into the training at Newell Strength, it really clicks and resonates in my head that Newell Strength is more of a philosophy. Every philosophy I have in life has really somehow been connected to physical training, some way or some shape. And with that diving back in, I think it's critical from 2 points of view. You need to develop a philosophy for your life. If you don't, you're going to have a mediocre life. You're going to do what other people dictate to you that should be done. You're going to have a much tougher time making decisions when you know the correct decision in your gut, but you haven't taken the time to develop that philosophy, so it makes making the decision easier. For example, when we opened the gym in May of 2020, that was based on my life philosophy, part of my life's philosophy. Made the decision easy, despite all the naysayers and the pressure not to open because of the restrictions and the legal implications. Made it a very easy decision that my gut was gnawing at me. To be honest with you, I waited too long to do that, but it was my life's philosophy to open up at that point, obviously with Devin's support. So reading that, really studying that, listening to a lot of old interviews with old bodybuilders, and that's really how I came up. That's what really ignited me when I first came up and got my juices going, was bodybuilding. And I consider myself somewhat of a historian of bodybuilding. I know a lot more than the average person about bodybuilding. Competed 7 times. There's an old documentary that if you have not seen, I believe it's on Netflix or Prime. I know it's on one of those now because I see it pop up. Definitely watch it. It's called Pumping Iron with Arnold and Franco Columbu and Lou Ferrigno. And you get to really see the psyche of some of these bodybuilders, especially from that era. And one of the new books I'm reading, another book, right? So I always have a few books going at a time. This is called Win. And it's written by the doctor where I got a lot of my salt information for the juice and whatnot, besides Scott Abel and Cole Robinson. Written by that, and it's really about getting an edge. But I opened it up last night, reading a little bit before bed. It says, the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates said, and I want you to listen to this, no man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. I'm going to come back to that later in the episode. It won't be a long episode as usual. They're not long. But it really got me thinking. I have a list of names here, people that I've studied that were idols to me in some way, like role models, I should say, not idols. And they all had a very distinct philosophy on life. They were all wound up being very successful. Many of them, all of them from the strength game, most of them from the bodybuilding world. I figured I would touch on a few of them, kind of give you what I knew about them. And these men, not only did their physical body really launch their career to whether that was fame or whatever it is that they wound up doing, it was the physical body. But these were very learned men. They were very, very thoughtful, very insightful. So this concept that a lot of people have in their head of the meathead, right? I know that's what people call me, meat, whatever. I embrace it fully, but it comes from the fact that when most people think of bodybuilding, and people that develop their body to that level, they think of airheads, they think of meatheads, they think of people that really have $1 million bodies and 10-cent brains. Well, the opposite is actually true. Yes, a lot of the people that never make it big time, you do have a lot of bodybuilders that is the case. The people that make it to the top, though, or even if it's the top of their local level, they're very, very intelligent. And I've had conversations with many of them, and they have a distinct philosophy on life, but I'm putting my life on it that philosophy has arose out of their training, the physical culture. And that's why I always tell people that the physical training is just the gateway into the mind and into the spirit. And that's why the more, again, I get back into the training at Newell Strength, I look at Newell Strength as a philosophy of life. Training is just part of that. It's not the end-all be-all. You got to take what you apply and you learn in the gym from molding your body and pushing your body. Like, how does that apply to everything else in your life? So let's look at some of the people I wrote down. You know, you heard the Socrates quote. Arnold Schwarzenegger, obviously. So when Arnold was a young boy, like 11 or 12 years old, when he was still in Austria, couldn't speak English, he told his buddies he was going to become the best bodybuilder in the world. And mind you, this is when he really hadn't developed himself at all. He's going to be the best bodybuilder in the world. He was going to move to California and become a big American or Hollywood action star. And then he was going to go into American politics. And they laughed at him. They said, you're crazy. What did he do? He did all those things. Arnold, throughout the years, if you've ever followed his training or read his biographies or watched Puppy Iron, he really used training to train his mind, the physical training. And he would visualize while he was training. And he developed the power of the mind through physical training. And say what you want about Schwarzenegger, I mean, the guy's probably worth $1 billion. Not that that's how you necessarily measure success. In some ways, right, it is. It's silly to think otherwise, that you don't take that into account. But you can't get to that level unless you are thinking at a different level. So using his physical body and his training to really create the life that he wanted. Let's look at Stallone. Although Stallone is not a bodybuilder, as far as competitively, nor I should say he was not a bodybuilder, he was a bodybuilder. He saw what Arnold was doing back in the day. They had a rivalry for a while. But if you look at Rocky 1 and then you go into Rocky 2, 3, 4, that's when Stallone really started taking the physical training seriously. And stuff I've read about Stallone, his bodyguard says he is the most disciplined man you'll ever meet in life. He does not cheat on his diet. He doesn't drink alcohol. He puts his training first and he puts his craft first. And you can't develop that type. Look at this type of shape he's still in. It's phenomenal. So success, right? Physical body, taking it to one level, but realizing that that's just a vehicle. It's just your temple. Lee Haney, 8-time Mr. Olympia. He holds the record along with Ronnie Coleman, a southern boy. I believe he's from Atlanta, down in the Georgia area. Listened to interviews with him lately, and Lee Haney, I mean, 8-time Mr. Olympia, won 8 in a row, and he retired by the time he was 31. This guy had one of the most beautiful physiques. He was kind of coming out of that era he was coming out of that era where it was still a classic, beautiful physique. And coming into the mass monsters, we went up against Dorian Yates, which was really interesting, listening to these two guys talk about each other when they had that crossover period where they competed against each other. But Lee Haney developed a philosophy of life, and he realized that from his training, his mission was to really mentor young men that didn't have father figures, didn't have the guidance. But if you look at his training, he was very, and all these guys, when they get to that level, they put so much thought into their training, and it always comes down to the basic principles. But the concept of stimulate, don't annihilate. Your body needs just enough to get the adaptation you're after. Lee Haney philosophizing about life, but he really understood the nervous system. He understood how the body responded to stress. He had one of the best backs ever developed, and he never used more than 80 pounds on a dumbbell row. The mind-muscle connection. And that's what a lot of these guys had, the mind-muscle connection. Not just to develop the muscle, to develop the mind and to push it beyond. Mike Mentzer. So the Mentzer brothers, I believe it was Mike and Ray Mentzer, we used to read a lot about them in the magazines growing up. They passed early on. But his whole thing, he was a very smart man, was high intensity training, all based off of Arthur Jones and the Nautilus system. But Mentzer developed a world-class physique, competed against Arnold, almost won the Olympia. But realizing that you did not need massive amounts of training to develop the body. And this guy, right, when you see a philosophy taking root, it's not just agreeing with everybody else. It's saying, no, I know this works. And when you can test it in the gym or whatnot, develop that philosophy, and now you can apply it. That's what I think I've done with the training at Newell Strength and the Panda diet and developing these philosophies and rising out of, right, one of my life's philosophies that whatever the majority of people are doing, probably do the opposite, and you're going to be on the right track, and then you figure it out. So Mike Mentzer, you can listen to some of his videos. I might put links within these so you guys can listen to some of these guys speak about what I'm talking about. And again, this is just an abbreviated list. It's not a huge list. Louis Simmons, one of my mentors who recently passed in March, spoke with Louis 6 times on the phone. He's in one of my books. He helped me a lot with my knee, my patellar tendon ruptures. Louis was a genius, you know, and he devoted his life to the West Side barbell method and the conjugate method, but bringing this stuff to other people. And I mean, I've heard Louis say things like, my morals aren't your morals and your morals aren't my morals, so don't judge me and I'm not going to judge you. What a brilliant little quote. There's some people that think Louis was potentially on the spectrum with maybe a touch of autism. And hey, maybe he was. When you look at his body language and all that, and he's such a brilliant mind, but he impacted so many people because of the philosophy he had about training. In a conjugate system, how you're kind of training for muscle growth, power, and strength all at the same time. You're not doing these different blocks. But Louis Simmons, and then Dorian Yates, the shadow. So he competed against Lee Haney. He's the one who took over the Olympia after Lee Haney. Dorian won 6 titles. And the brilliant thing, if you watch Dorian these days, listen to him, he went from this all-time great bodybuilder. He's a very, very spiritual man now. He lifts a little bit, but he's yoga, he's cycling, really big into how the mind works and just this connection with life and teaching others. So he kind of, you know, he inspired in bodybuilding, and then he's inspired beyond it. The growth never stopped happening with these men after the body, you know, their warrior body kind of went away, or it was time to put it in the closet. Look at Mike Tyson. If you haven't listened to any of Iron Mike's podcasts or interviews lately, the guy is brilliant now. What happened? Well, I know he got into the psychedelics and all that, but no matter what, which is a great thing, he developed a philosophy of life, and he's able to articulate it now based on all of his. So when you're a warrior, I think to boil it down, when you are a warrior, whether that's actual going to war or you and your mind are going to battle every day, and you're going to see what the hell you can do in your life. You're going to see how far you can push yourself. When you are a warrior mentally, you develop a philosophy. There's no other way to go about it. And sometimes you're picking and pulling from other people. But realize the gym is your classroom. The gym is where you can form a lot of this stuff. Pushing yourself, like when I do the Friday workouts. It's about expanding my mind. And with that in mind, I do have something that it's a little bit insane that I want to try one of the workouts, just see if I can push myself to that limit. But I'm not going to do it this week. It'll probably be maybe later in the summer. So stay tuned for that. But Socrates, was he a bodybuilder? Let me read that quote to you one more time before I wrap this up. And again, maybe in the show notes and in the comments, I'll put some video clips of some of these guys speaking about their mindset and philosophy. So as Socrates said, no man has the right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It's a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable of. Your body's capable of a lot, guys. It's capable of a lot, and that's going to affect your mind. Thanks for the support. Hit the like button. Leave a comment. Share it if you will. If you're interested in training, reach out to us at Newell Strength. If you're interested in mind map coaching, you can reach out to me. We got Muscle Camp is going to be starting the second week in August. It's going to be awesome. 6 weeks of muscle camp, just like they used to do out in Venice. The goal was to put on muscle, and it's going to be specific training, specific nutrition, all that type of stuff. So stay tuned for that. All right, later, guys.